Welcome back to Man versus Machine. Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds with you. It's week 12, but Ryan and I are looking ahead into the future. Part of fantasy football is looking in the crystal ball and identifying what are the likely outcomes, not just what's going to happen in week 12. There's so many people who are stuck in the middle of you need to get the waivers in. Some waivers don't run till Wednesdays, and then they're grinding for Thursday. And, yes, all of that is true. Ryan, you and I are in all these managed leagues, but to get a change of pace, we're going to look at what playoff best ball is going to look like. It's November 20th. The playoffs start in over a month. But it's really exciting seeing how these brackets are already kind of shaping up a little bit. We're also going to try to draft on Underdog Fantasy as well for their way too early playoff best ball tournament. So if you want to be waiting in the wings, you want to jump on Underdog and jump into those rooms when we get to about the second half of the show. Ryan and I are going to have some takes. We're going to have maybe a different vision or view, but also like just laying the groundwork for what NFL fans can expect while also attacking this tournament, because it's a different game than managed leagues. It's different game than your best ball mania. It's a different animal. And so, Ryan, what are your initial thoughts about, how you approached this type of thing in the past?
So I like playoff best ball. I lean more into it in some years versus others. Usually it's when I have a strong stance on a team that's in the middle of the pack to go the distance. And, the first step is you have to essentially handicap the playoff race. That starts with who's going to end up being the number one seed, which, we'll get into shortly. And then from there, you look at the bottom part of the playoff picture and who has a shot to get in that's out of it right now, where you can get guys you can get difference makers for free in the last round. I definitely have a guy there that I've been taking often. And then another one is, looking at the matchups. Like, for instance, in the NFC, if Arizona ends up being the 3 seed and Green Bay is the 6 seed, I could see Green Bay in a best case scenario going in as like a 1-point favorite in that game. So figuring out those matchups, basically betting on what your stances are in those situations, like that's how I treat this.
Yeah, it's hard to pick out what the upsets are going to be at this point. But we do know how teams are trending and what their strengths are, and if there's a particular, matchup that may work out. So let's kick it off with starting at the top with the projected 1 seeds. If the season were to end today, the Chiefs and the Lions would be the 1 seeds earning the bye. And I think this would be good for Detroit. They stay healthy. They're clicking on all cylinders. The only argument that people might like galaxy brain it is that they lose momentum. They get an extra week, but I don't think that's true. I think that Dan Campbell and the Lions are a very disciplined team. And so I wouldn't be worried about like them coming out in that second week of the playoffs and, not performing, especially if it's going to be an Atlanta team or a Minnesota Vikings team. I think they're going to be very prepared coming out of the bye.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I think there's 3 teams in the NFC that have like a really good path. Actually, 2 with a good path and 1 that's a little dangerous. The Lions, the Eagles are the obvious ones, and then I think Green Bay is the most dangerous suboptimal team, especially if San Francisco doesn't get in. But with the Lions, here's something that I'm looking at right now. They're 9-1. They're destroying people offensively. Their offense has been, a thing for a while. Defensively, I think they're more of an average group than a really good one. But the thing here is this. The Bears twice, I've said this so many times, I'm almost sick of it myself. When the Lions played the Bears last year for 120 minutes, they split, but the Bears kicked the shit out of them for 118 of those minutes. So I do not view those as, layup wins. They also play Green Bay, Buffalo, at San Francisco, and versus Minnesota. If the Lions lost 3 games down the stretch, I don't think that's impossible. Where for the Eagles, Bradley, the Eagles have the Rams in Los Angeles Sunday night this week. At Baltimore, that's probably a loss. Versus the Panthers, versus the Steelers at Washington, who they just smoked, and Dallas. So Philly has a clearer path. They're down by 1 game. They're down 1 game in the loss column. It would not surprise me if the Eagles ended up as the number 1 seed.
That's certainly a pathway, but after 1 or 2, I think it's a whole mess. It's a whole muddle of, are the Vikings good enough to overtake the Lions, to jump from the 5th seed to a possible 1 seed? Do you like that leaves possibly the Cardinals as a 3 seed? It leaves the Falcons as a 4 seed, but they just got smoked. Like, is there a pathway for the Falcons to not even make it? And that also leads to Michael Penix. Or is there this like overlap Venn diagram scenario you could see where the Falcons do bench Kirk Cousins and they somehow still make it to the playoffs? Is that something worth pursuing?
Yeah, I don't think they're benching Kirk Cousins unless they get eliminated. I'll say this though. I'm glad you asked me this question because the Buccaneers are very interesting. The downside is, let me make sure. No, Atlanta basically has 3 games, a 3-game lead on them. That's the issue because they beat them twice, and they're up. No, 2.5 games because they still have their bye left. But Atlanta's final schedule after their bye this week: the Chargers, the Vikings, the Raiders, Giants are layups at Washington versus Carolina. Where the Buccaneers' schedule is wonderful. Tampa's schedule, Baker Mayfield's played lights out this year. Coming off their bye, they go to the Giants, they go to the Panthers, they host the Raiders. They could be tied at the division for the division lead at the end of those 3 games. Then at the Chargers is tough. At Dallas is a cupcake now. Versus the Panthers, versus New Orleans. I think Tampa has a shot, and right now I'm taking Mike Evans in the last round kind of routinely because if they get in as the 7 seed and Detroit's the 2 seed, they beat Detroit already. It's they have a shot, and even better, if they end up winning the division, I don't think Minnesota's a great team. Minnesota's a very good defense. Minnesota's a very volatile offense. I think in that scenario, Tampa could end up beating Minnesota. I view that as a coin flip game. And then coming back, if they play Detroit, that game could be contested, and you get 2 weeks of Mike Evans. So I love Mike Evans in round 10 is a bit of a roll of the dice.
Yeah, he's definitely like, you want to find those teams that last just a little bit longer and have those higher upside players. Mike Evans, one of the top upside plays, even coming back. He's expected to be back in week 12 against the Giants. So they wouldn't activate him if the Buccaneers weren't saying, let's roll him out. So yeah, we're firing up Mike Evans, even with the hamstring pulls. You mentioned the Packers being a sneaky play. They're 7-3. They're in 3rd place, but they have an interesting schedule rest of the way. San Francisco obviously in week 12 with George Kittle back. That's going to be a little tougher matchup than the week 11 San Francisco, that ended up not doing too hot. But you look at the teams that are on the outside looking in. Tampa obviously has the best shot of getting in of the teams on the bubble, but then the 49ers probably next, the Seahawks, and then the Rams. And then you look at like no one else really has a realistic shot of making the playoffs. And even the Rams have a tough spot where they're on the outside looking in, maybe a 14% from Next Gen Stats NFL, only 14% for the Rams. So they need a lot of things to go the right way to enter into playoff scenario. They're probably in a void. I think on the bubble teams on the outside looking in, I'm probably not drafting 49ers at this point until like if they beat Green Bay, that's probably the time to start buying them because it's just not worth the probability of right now a 30% chance of making the playoffs. So probably the Buccaneers are the only team in the NFC that I'd be willing to take a shot on.
Yeah, I like that. I think figuring out who's going to win the NFC West is very important, so I'm glad we're on the same page there. I think if Arizona goes into Seattle and wins, they're in the driver's seat because they have a real good-looking schedule. At Minnesota's tough. Then they host Seattle, then the Patriots, at Carolina, at the Rams. I could see them potentially playing the 49ers for the division in Week 18 if San Francisco goes on a run. But like you just said, this is not the 49ers team that's been around the last half decade. This is not the same group. So I think Arizona's in the driver's seat a little bit. It's why I like Green Bay, because I think Green Bay at San Francisco in the first round, that's a coin flip game. But at Arizona, Green Bay is a better roster. I like Green Bay in that scenario. And then, again, I want to target whoever's playing against Minnesota because I think Minnesota finishes 11-6. I don't think they're really an 11-6 team or a 12-5 team.
Ooh, Ryan calling for a 3-5 finish or 3-4 finish for the Minnesota Vikings rest of season. Bold call. Love to see it. Go Pack, go. All right. We're going to flip to the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs, 9-1 on the season. They were handed their first loss by the Buffalo Bills, who are the currently projected 2 seed. Both teams pretty much shoe in for the playoffs. But Kansas City looked, they've shown vulnerabilities throughout the season. They are, just like we talked about the 49ers not being the same team, a similar storyline for the Chiefs. Like, their wide receiver room has been hit. Travis Kelce does not look like he's the same player. 2 catches for 8 yards. That's not going to get it done. Xavier Worthy is volatile. He's definitely not a polished wide receiver. They're missing Rashee Rice. They're missing Hollywood Brown. Those are big, big misses. And DeAndre Hopkins is a post-Apex alpha that is going to have his ups and downs. It reminds me last year of Devontae Adams, where Adams was commanding a good enough target share, but he also zeroed out in some games. And that's where we're going to see more from DeAndre Hopkins here with the Chiefs. If they get the bye, okay, maybe they face the Chargers, maybe they face the Texans. I'm actually very interested in the Chargers team. They've shown that every team has their flaws. But Jim Harbaugh coaches his team so well, and I'm going to trust that team that has held off on the run. Yes, they got into a shootout, but Joe Burrow is playing MVP level if the Bengals even had a decent team. So got to tip your cap there. So I'm thinking the Chargers are a very interesting team. They're currently projected for a 90% chance of making the playoffs. Second in the AFC West, just behind the Chiefs. How are you pegging out this AFC West, Chiefs, Chargers, and the Bills maybe?
Yeah, the Chiefs, the Chargers definitely aren't drawn dead at the division. Like you said, they're well coached. Jim Harbaugh, completely, he's turned the Chargers into something other than what they've been the last, my entire adult life, where they blow games on a regular basis. That said, I don't think talent-wise they're in the same class as the top-of-the-line teams yet. I don't think that's there. Where if, say, they play Baltimore in round 1, I could see Baltimore's not going to win the division, which is, kind of a crazy thing in itself. But,
the Steelers are going to win the division.
Yeah,
that's what's wild.
They probably are. Yeah. So Steelers, Chargers, I could see the Chargers beating the Steelers. I like that. To go back to the top seed, though, Buffalo's now 1 game back with a tiebreaker on Kansas City, and they have an easier schedule down the run than the Chiefs do. And like you said, the Chiefs' offense has been kind of floundering for a while now, and they get a get well game against Carolina this week. But I do think if Buffalo can maybe lose 1 more game through the rest of the year is the challenge there. So I'm gonna say 60-40, the Chiefs end up as the number 1 seed.
Which means that we kind of want to target Buffalo, right? Yeah. We want to target more of the Buffalo Bills, the Josh Allen, maybe an underrated Khalil Shakir. Keon Coleman is kind of forgotten about, and he was blossoming for a few weeks before the wrist injury. I believe it was maybe I'm confusing it with Amari Cooper, but maybe Cooper is cheap enough in the ADP that we could get some of him too. Right now, I'm pulling it up. Amari Cooper is the wide receiver or tight end number 9 on Underdog. I think that's too high, way too high for Amari Cooper. What are your thoughts on him being the wide receiver or tight end 9 in a tournament?
Yeah, it seems high. I just got him in the 6th round, so I guess he slid in that draft. But I'm with you on Josh Allen. I think you're going to have to pay up for him. But I think especially if they end up as a 2 seed, when one of the things too that I failed to mention in the beginning, when you're building a playoff roster, you're kind of building it around a narrative, which we've kind of toe dipped into here. So if the Bills are the 2 seed and you're taking Josh Allen in the 1st round, I don't think you take another quarterback. You're just betting on them to get to the dance. And my immediate instinct is pair Buffalo, Allen. You can get James Cook in the second or third round, and then like you said, his complementary pieces are all very affordable. You can get Keon Coleman specifically is one that I took. You can get Keon Coleman like the 8th round, and then you pair them with the Lions or Eagles or whoever you think is going to win the NFC. That's something that I've leaned into early and often.
Yeah, Keon Coleman right now, the wide receiver, tight end 27. Nice. Yeah. Good price, fair price. Right now, the Texans are looking pretty hot, but not because of CJ Stroud. It's been the Joe Mixon show, Ryan, coming off a 3-touchdown game. If the season ended today, they would be the 4th seed. They are 98% chance of making the playoffs. They get Tennessee this week. Looks like they need an offensive line to get themselves together. Their defense has also been spotty from time to time. There's flaws and holes in this team, but how far can they ride Joe Mixon into the playoffs?
Yeah, everything about this is interesting. I'm glad you mentioned them specifically because I think the most dangerous off-brand team in the NFC is Green Bay, and I think the same as Houston and the AFC because they're going to win their division. They have a very good defense, and they haven't really played well on offense yet, where they're starting to get healthier, at least with wide receiver. And we've seen CJ Stroud be better than he's been in the past month. So they start to peak at the right time. They're a team that I'm trying to build some stacks with, just because, like you said, I think people are going to be down on them. As far as Mixon, yeah, I mean, you have to pick your poison when it comes to running back, and that is who's going to get to the dance. You're going to take one of the 2 Lions. You're going to build it around Joe Mixon. You're going to build it around Saquon Barkley. He's going 1st overall right now. So I think Mixon's, again, if you're going to build the narrative that Houston at least gets to the AFC Championship game, I think Mixon's fine at cost right now.
Looking at how the playoff bubble is shaping out, there's only one on the outside looking in that has even a reasonable chance, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. They're 5-6, second in the AFC South, behind the Texans. Currently 30% chance of making it to the dance. That means that, or making it to the playoffs, that means that the Broncos are currently pegged as the 7 seed, 3rd in the AFC West. This is a team that has seen Bo Nix ascend. He is playing one of the best ball that we've seen from rookie quarterback this year. Like, Jaden Daniels has been very consistent, but Bo Nix has shown us the spike weeks that we've wanted to see. And if they end up getting into a nice little shootout with, well, it's going to be either Kansas City or Buffalo. I'd actually, in looking at the matchup, like if it's Denver versus Kansas City, I might be more intrigued by that matchup as taking an upset than Buffalo. I think Buffalo would provide a more difficult matchup given just how the team is set up and what kind of offense the Buffalo Bills can generate. Like, I don't know how much Denver can do to keep up with a Buffalo offense.
Yeah, I've said this a few times. If the season ended today, I think Sean Payton has to be coach of the year. What he's gotten out of this group is remarkable. I don't think Bo Nix is doing this in, 25 plus NFL cities. I think it's a lot to do with the offense. They have a very good offensive line too. So, but like you said, I'm 100% aligned with you. If Kansas City's the 2 seed, familiarity. Denver always plays Kansas City tough, and in the last several years, so that's where if they play Buffalo, I don't think they really have a shot of knocking them off. But I'm going to say this: Cincinnati and Denver playing Week 17. If Cincinnati goes on a run and Denver stumbles a little bit, there's a path where they end up tied, and the Bengals have the tiebreaker on them. So Cincinnati's not completely dead because I do think if Denver went 9-8 or even 8-9, I don't think that would really blow anyone's hair back at this point.
Right now, the Bengals are 12% playoff probability. Yeah. They would need to go on a nice little run. Joe Burrow is playing very well. We have to give credit where credit is due, certainly. But on the outside looking in, really, there's the Dolphins at 11%, and then no other team in the AFC is worth mentioning. It's pretty closed right now, 2/3 the way through the season. All right, after we get back, Ryan and I will offer some final thoughts about how to approach playoff best ball, and then we'll get into the underdog streets, drafting a way too early NFL best ball team. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't done some drafting in a few months, but we're going to have some fun. So check it out, guys. If you want to hop in the lobbies while we're talking to you about the Dynasty Dominator, that'd be great. We'll talk to you in just a moment.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator App. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
That's right. Check out the Dynasty Dominator on PlayerProfiler. Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds with you. It's also in many leagues the Dynasty Trade Deadline, which, Ryan, before we get into like all this, I'm anti-trade deadline in Dynasty. It's my opinion. I don't think it's good practice. Like, allow for teams who need leverage to have some leverage. You know, the teams are rebuilding. You want to go for the ship, you better pay up. Like, I'm okay with that. So I don't know if you have a strong opinion about that, but it's important, I think, for these teams to be able to compete in some capacity. And the trade deadline kind of eliminates that a little bit.
I know. My stance on that would be the Dynasty audience is a hardcore audience, and they're a knowledgeable one. So I think you want to keep them engaged as long as possible if you're running a Dynasty league, because the biggest challenge is getting people that drop off and then, replacing them. So I'm doing everything in my power to avoid that. I wouldn't have a trade deadline myself if I started the Dynasty league.
There you go. Ryan Reynolds telling us no trade deadline. Okay. Well, let's get into it. We're going to look at a couple ADPs, and then we'll click the play button for our people at home. As Ryan mentioned, looking at the running back room, Saquon Barkley, the RB1, Philadelphia, the projected 2 seed at this point in the offseason. Derrick Henry, Baltimore, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Christian McCaffrey. Any in the top 5 for the running backs that you would change?
No, I wouldn't have McCaffrey 5. I'd probably have James Cook and Joe Mixon ahead of McCaffrey, maybe even Pacheco, just because I think McCaffrey has a legitimate shot of not making it. So I think I would play it a little safer with those other guys.
I agree. Mixon needs to be up there. James Cook also up there. That's where, like, you need everything to go right for McCaffrey to hit. But that is just such an investment in sunken the cost to draft him. Quarterback, you mentioned Josh Allen. Quarterback 1, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Jared Goff. Most of these players are projected to be in a possible bye week. Long term, they're Super Bowl contenders. You said if you draft Josh Allen, you're only drafting one quarterback.
So, yeah.
How many other quarterbacks are you doing that for?
Oh, very good question, Bradley. I like it. This actually leans into something that I think we should have talked about before.
Okay.
Right now, if the season ended today, Lamar Jackson takes his Ravens into Pittsburgh in round 1. And what would you say? In that scenario, 70% chance they beat him? 2 out of 3? Then, if the Chiefs get the bye, Baltimore's going into Kansas City, and that is a super coin flip game. So I think if you're going to take Lamar Jackson, I'm fine with just, especially because the chances of him getting the number 1 seed are almost zero at this point. It's going to take a catastrophe from both the Chiefs and the Bills. I think if you're taking Lamar Jackson, you're riding him until you get there in a lot of scenarios, with the one caveat being you could pair Lamar with Jared Goff maybe, or something like that, or maybe Jordan Love, thinking the Packers get there and Lamar just takes you to the AFC Championship. But generally speaking, those are the two guys where I'm just going to ride both of them if I take them.
Jordan Love does seem very undervalued in this draft. I think you should go closer to the CJ Stroud area, maybe Jared, maybe right below Jared Goff.
Yeah,
I think that's the spot.
Yeah, agreed. I'd have him adjacent to Stroud either way.
But Kyler Murray is 14. I think that's way too low as well. Way, way, way too low. It's going to be very easy, I think, to put together a lot of cheap Arizona teams. You know, you've got Trey McBride, you've got Michael Wilson. Those are two players that we could be considering very easily, later on in your drafts. James Conner, but also Trey Benson. He looks like he's been coming on a little bit more lately. So players to consider late. Arizona, in particular, a possible good value.
Agreed. McBride in particular, man. Like he's basically free. You can get him in the 9th or 10th round. I think he's a safer variant of Evans, where he has difference-making upside, but he's more likely to actually play games.
But even, Marvin Harrison, wide receiver, tight end, 33. Like, this is a guy who could win the week for you.
Sure.
That's the type of upside that he's shown. McBride, wide receiver, tight end at 45. So, yeah, I think that Arizona is one of those teams that could be very undervalued. Looking in the first round, outside of McCaffrey, anyone else surprise you?
No, I think everything else is fair. How to handle the Lions running backs is interesting, though. I'll say that, because they both get huge usage, but they're also murdering bad teams right now. So I do think I'd probably slide Montgomery down a little bit. Like, I think I'd rather have Joe Mixon or Cook than Montgomery, but
yes,
that's I think I'm splitting hairs there.
How concerned are you about A.J. Brown and the pass rate over expectation that's been happening over the last few weeks? Do you think that with Philadelphia zeroing out the pass game, even though A.J. Brown's getting his 30% target share, the pie is smaller, how worried are you that not only this will continue the rest of the season, but that it will be the strategy that the Eagles use going into the playoffs?
Well, I do have a unique insight on this, because I worked with Joe Banner, and he's basically built the foundation they still have in Philly. And something that guy says all the time is, you throw early to run late. When you play teams you're better than, you don't have to throw for as long. But if they're playing Detroit, they're gonna ramp up the passing game volume. So concerned, yeah, because their defense is good enough, especially in the early rounds, where they can beat a team 24-13 potentially and just lean on Barkley. But when you're getting to the big games against, say, the Lions or Buffalo, Jalen Hurts they're going to have to rely more on Jalen Hurts in those situations.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into a draft here all the way. Ryan, do you want to do the $5 or the $50 one? Doesn't matter to me.
Here's what I'd say. Since it's the $5, since it's the first one we're doing, let's do the $5 one, and maybe we do a bigger one later.
So for those who are unfamiliar, Underdog Fantasy has way too early wild card best ball. Just to go through a few things with the people, it is a 10-round draft. You can max it 150. There's currently 12,000 of 22,000 entrants, so a little over 50%. Closes on January 11th or whenever it fills, which it's very clearly on the pathway to filling. I think it's just been a couple days that this has been open. People are hungry to do this. Yeah. So first prize in this $5 tournament is $10,000. 9th and 10th gets you down to $1,000, and then you get your money back if you are in the top 7,500. So not too bad. Fine. Get me my money back. It's for those also not familiar, this is half point scoring. So this is not full PPR. This is half-point scoring, 4 points for passing touchdowns, 6 for rushing, 6 for receiving. Those are standard. -1 for interceptions, -2 for fumbled lost. And you start 1 quarterback, you start 1 running back, 2 wide receivers or tight ends, and another flex play, and then 5 bench spots. So that gets you to your 10 rounds. So we're going to enter this tournament here. Boom. Yes, confirm. We'll do that. I'm drafting over on this screen, so I got to kind of, Okay, we're going to close that. All right, we're waiting on 2 more people, so if y'all want to jump in to Underdog Fantasy in the $5 tournament, we're almost there. Oh, it looks like it's filled. See how quickly they're filling? That's what we're talking about. That's why we love Underdog Fantasy here on the Roto Underworld Network. Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds with you. We are at the 16201. All right, Ryan, we're not going to get a chance probably at Philly, but we can double tap. We can double tap at the turn.
Would you agree? Would you agree with this essentially, that whoever we're taking first and second is basically dictating the narrative of our team? Would you agree with that general stance? Okay, so I think I think we have a lot of options, honestly. Like if we take Josh Allen and either an Eagle or a Lion, we're in good shape. There's a few paths we can take here.
Yeah, Josh Allen and then an Eagle or a Lion would be cool. I feel like Philly would be over double tapped with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. I think that's just sometimes you want to steer clear from the chalk. So we can go Allen here if he's available, and then Monty. We could go with AJ Brown to differentiate.
Yeah.
One of those two.
I like that. I think that should be plan A.
Josh Allen, AJ Brown, if they're there at the 6-7 turn. So weird.
Yeah.
Normally
right.
with these 12 team drafts. Now it's just 6. Goodness gracious.
See if he lands. And what's plan B if he doesn't? If you're max entering, I think you want to take some Hurts and Brown, but if you're not, I do think staying away from that makes sense. So we could do Lamar and play this as if the Ravens are going to win it all. We could do that and then come back like how we were going to originally. So
Lamar and then AJ Brown.
You could do Brown or Montgomery. I'm good with either. I think Lamar Montgomery might be a less chalky duo though. So it's game theory. I'm good with that if you want to do it.
Let's go. We got it. All right, we've got our quarterback, we've got our running back, and now we wait. We wait and see. About the spot where we'll be drafting should get us, so like 18th, 19th. So Devonta Smith is there. Possibly Nico Collins might be there. Joe Mixon. We've talked about Joe Mixon a lot. Pacheco is there.
One thing I like about Mixon with what we're doing, the chances of them playing Baltimore before the AFC Championship is almost 0. So I like that. Mixon, actually, I think I might like Collins more because Baltimore's run defense is a strength of their team, so maybe that makes more sense for this. But either way, I like that.
Yeah, we'll fire up Houston here. See if anyone falls.
Yeah, like obviously we want Zay Flowers to fall to us, but another one, Jameson Williams, I'd be good with too. Yes. I'd like that.
You love your Jameson Williams, Ryan. So
hey, listen, he's not consistent, but I like the Spike Week guys. I do. You caught me, Bradley.
He was. I think I had him. I was the highest ranked in the Fantasy Pros rankings competition last week. I was the highest ranker on Jameson Williams by far. So I'll take the dub.
Yeah, you're good at what you do, pal. So that's not a surprise.
I'll take the dub. Let's see here. Good deal. I did move Zay Flowers up just in case.
Yeah.
AJ Brown has fallen though, Ryan.
Sure. Yeah. Like if that happens, we have to do it. You know, we are value guys. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100%
Right. Yeah. Because Philly and Detroit wouldn't play each other anyways. Oh, we are one away from Zay Flowers. Let's go, baby. Come on. Let's hit it.
That would be enjoyable.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. He's an auto pick. Yeah.
All right. Zay Flowers it is. And then Nico Collins or Joe Mixon? Or do we want to go Jameson Williams?
I think my lean would be Jameson Williams, but I'm good if you don't want to do that because I get it.
No, let's go JMO. Let's have some fun.
Okay. Yeah. We're trying to win this thing, so we're going to stack the Super Bowl here. Ravens Lions.
Lions. Let's go, baby. This is excellent. Most excellent. Yeah. So coming back around to us at like 30, 31 ADPs, Laporta might still be there.
Yeah.
People obviously falling low on Laporta, but all you need is one game. All you need is 2 games from him. And there we go.
Did someone just take Mark Andrews? Is that what I saw?
Let me pull it up and see. Someone took Davis Maddock took Mark Andrews.
Huh.
Davis has Baltimore and Philly, so he's got Hurts, Henry, AJ Brown, and Mark Andrews.
Got it. Yeah, it makes sense. No, that's who I had my eye on, so I was not very happy that he was taken.
Yeah, I didn't think he would make it all the way back to us, but
yeah.
Laporta might.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
And then we could be looking at Dallas Goedert. He's there. If we want to go, well, it's like Baltimore, Buffalo. I don't know if we necessarily want to go that way.
I think if we're doing that, we're treating it as Buffalo's the 2 seed.
Right.
And then they wouldn't play Baltimore until the AFC Championship. I think that would be like our narrative for that, which I'm okay with.
So Khalil Shakir, good here.
Yeah, I'm good with him. Jaden Reed, I wouldn't hate either.
Let's go Jaden Reed.
Yeah,
and I mean we can double tap. So Khalil Shakir, Jaden Reed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. Cool. It's gonna be fun. We got a good team going. Yeah, and we'll see what value comes back to us as well. Like if we took Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs is there, and we're going to be looking for, someone to fill in if David Montgomery is the 1 seed.
Yeah.
With Detroit, we'll need a running back to fill in that spot.
Yeah, I don't think we want Najee Harris because you're playing the Ravens most likely in round 1. That's not a matchup you want to target.
No.
Can't take
Dobbins
James
might
Cook.
be interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
J.K. Dobbins, Brian Robinson in round 1.
Yeah, I'm good with that because they're more. James Conner too is another good one. Brian Robinson, they're almost definitely getting in, I'd say, and they're more run centric than I think most people realize. So, and you're a Brian Robinson guy too. So let's make Brian Robinson a member of this squad.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the sound of that. Yeah, Washington right now, if the season ended, would face Philly. So we could double tap some Washington guys. Yeah. That wouldn't conflict with much of the narrative, right?
No. If we're playing it that way, no. Because basically what you're trying to ideally get with the first round guys is maybe they have like a 50% chance to play in round 2. So, it's very hard to beat a team 3 times as well. So I'm Philly, Washington. Maybe I like Eckler more against Philly, because Philly's a good front. You're gonna check downs, and the Eckler I think had 89 receiving yards against Philly. So I'd be more torn between them 2 in that scenario.
mean, we can double tap the Washington. No. Do you want to go Dobbins and then like Brian Robinson?
Yeah.
Or Eckler?
Yeah.
Dobbins and then Eckler?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do Dobbins and then Eckler. All right. Good. We got our running backs. We've got our quarterback we think will stick with us. We got wide receiver and tight end. Kincaid went off.
Yeah. So it's, we're getting a little heavy on running back, but I wouldn't hate James Conner still.
Right.
Well, if you wanted to take one of the Cardinals pass catchers too, I wouldn't hate that either.
Marvin Harrison, Christian Watson is there.
Yeah.
Maybe double tapping those as a contingency. I don't know.
Sure. Well, no, I mean, they're right now, they'd play each other if the season ended today. So I'm good with that. I think that's interesting, actually. Plus that there's not really anything we want from Baltimore at this point.
No, not really. Yeah, I just keep scrolling and it's like these teams aren't getting in there.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Mike Evans is all the way at the end.
Yeah, we could take him. I'm good with that. If you wanted to take a Bronco too, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, the only Bronco receiver that you'd be interested in is Sutton, right?
Yeah.
But that would also be unique. Most people wouldn't have.
It would. Right.
Sutton.
That said, I do think if Bijan keeps falling, we're going to have to take Bijan. So I'm kind of I'm semi-hoping that he doesn't fall. But that's getting out of control now. But yeah, I agree with you. Courtland Sutton is, any of those guys from that bucket, Sutton, Harrison, Mike Evans, I think they all have interesting upside, where the other two guys are more likely to play than Evans is.
All right. Well, Hawkinson, Watson went off. Do you want to double tap Harrison and Sutton here?
Yeah, I'm good with that, man.
All right. Let's go Marvin Harrison. And let's go Courtland Sutton. All right, Lamar's our guy. David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, Austin Eckler is our running backs. Flowers, Jamison Williams, Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir, Marvin Harrison, Courtland Sutton. Not a ton of stacking. I mean, you have obviously Jackson and Flowers, but most of this was correlation and setting it up.
Yeah, I think how I'd frame it is we played this as Lions-Packers NFC Championship game.
Yes.
And Bills-Ravens, where the Ravens win and the Lions win. And we're just trying to get, Harrison and Dobbins/Eckler. We're trying to survive week one with that.
Yes. We need either Washington or the Chargers to get through.
Yeah.
Well, this was a lot of fun, Ryan.
Yeah,
we should do it again sometime.
We should do it again. We should. Maybe we start doing this every week, exercise the degenerate muscles we both have.
I am here for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was great talking some best ball strategy with Ryan Reynolds. Make sure you're following Ryan on the X Machine at Ryan Reynolds NFL. Make sure you're following me on Twitter as well at FF Stalder. Also, I guess I'm on Blue Sky now. I don't know. That's just what the cool kids are doing these days. I'm not that cool, but also, whatever. It's also FF Stalder on any other platform. So check it out. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you are subscribed to the Player Profiler YouTube channel, smash the like button, smash subscribe. Ryan Reynolds also have the podcast. So if you miss out on the live stream, you want to check it out, go to the podcast, search Man versus Machine. You can see even in the logo there that we're right there. We got you. As the people say, we got you. And so we're good for today. Ryan, any last words before we sign off for the night?
No, I mean, right now in redraft, you're stacking your team, you're optimizing your roster for the fantasy playoffs. Be a little aggressive. Look at the matchups for defenses. I talk about it on Twitter, so we've talked about it on our show. So look at that, and for these fantasy playoffs, man, you got to be assertive. I'd say pick your Super Bowl teams. Let the early part of the draft guide what you're going to do, and just let it rip, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun drafting these way too earlys, and then when we get closer, we'll start to get more information. But also that means the rooms are going to be sharper, right? That means that you're going to have tougher competition. That's kind of the fun of drafting right now. Where, to be frank, like all of the teams that are currently projected in the playoffs have a projection of at least 63% of being in there. So we've got enough information that there's probably not going to be anything can happen, of course, between now and the end of the season. But when we look at what's most likely to happen, it's not going to be upsets. It's not going to be surprises. Like we're going to need to see significant shifts from some of the teams for us to believe that, there's an outside guy looking in that's going to make it into the playoffs. So this is where you may have a little bit more of an edge than people who are casually watching or casually playing or toilet drafting, right? This is where we can take advantage, right? It's true.
Yeah,
Lots of these best ball drafts, you're sitting on the can and I'm not speaking from experience. I've seen on Twitter other people say that it's got to be true. It's got to be true. So the reality is this is a lot of fun. Make sure you guys are going on to Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code Underworld if you're on there for the first time. Check it out. Lots of fun there. Yeah, Ryan. This is a busy week for me because tomorrow, Dan Williamson and I are recording Stack Hunters, which is going to be a lot of fun. We haven't done that in a few weeks. And on Sunday, y'all, I'm also going to be doing the sit or stream. Matt Kelly is handing over the reins to me for week 12, 8 a.m. here on the Player Profiler Network. There are no promises. I may not have drank enough coffee yet, but the rankings will be updated. I'll give you the best advice in the industry. Giving you the rankings, the start sits. We're here for that. And no other show goes live at 8 a.m. I'll be up. My kids have me up. If you've watched Matt's streams, his hair is always, off to the side. And, there are people in the comment section, Matt Kelly, are you hungover? And the answer is no. It's just 8 a.m. for the bros, right? So... So, check out Sit or Stream at 8 a.m. on the Player Profiler Network. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. All right, until next time, everyone, good luck in the playoff best ball streets.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com. Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.